The program here today. Well, remember that the privatization of the Benin discos in this PHCN privatization, where the BP, the NCP, and four governors spoke up about what they thought, how the entire process went. That's our focus next, but we'd like to start with this report and take it from there.
Just when the process of privatizing the generation and distribution companies in the power sector seemed on the verge of completion, it has come under very heavy criticisms. 11 electricity distribution companies were up for commercial bids. 16 consortia participated. But with reference to the Benin Distribution Company, the governors of Edo, Delta and Ekiti State say the entire process was fraught with corruption. Here in this room, with the members of the National Council on Privatization, the technical committee chair is responding to those allegations.
On the allegation that the bid process was not transparent, I wholeheartedly affirm that the entire transaction followed due process and was governed by the provisions of the RFP. Incidentally, the submissions made by the Southern Consortium to the BPE show that the ownership of the consortium is comprised of 7 members. Therefore, close to 90% of this consortium is therefore owned by private sector companies that are not owned directly or indirectly by the governments of Delta, Edo, Ekiti, and Ondo states.
According to Mr. Atedo, Southern Consortium, which represented the aggrieved state, has been a part of the entire process and never complained before now.
Seeking to rewrite the rules after a game has been played is unacceptable and certainly does not conform to global best practice. Likewise, accusations of corruption, which are not based on the provision of an iota of evidence, are also unacceptable.
On the allegation of lack of competence by Vigil, which emerged for the Benin Disco, the council says 3 evaluation teams examined the technical bids and all requirements were met.
EFCC, the ICPC, and the SSS also observed the entire process from bid submission to the conclusion of evaluation. Leads were assigned to the evaluating teams by balloting to ensure that no evaluator had any prior knowledge of which bid he or she would evaluate. Some of the criteria evaluated were experience in operation and maintenance of distribution companies, experience in developing countries, technical and investment plan, management and staffing, and finally, financing plan and ability to raise finance.
The power sector is undergoing reforms. That alone has raised mixed reactions. Government say it meant well for the sector, but the arguments in other quarters suggest that the sector borders on national security and should be carefully treated. There is a common ground, however. Power needs to be improved in the country for any meaningful development to happen. Olu Phillips, Channels Television News.
Okay, well, the governors had complained initially where they did say that the process was flawed, fraudulent, and lacked transparency. But we're joined this morning by Mr. Olubunmi Ajayi, who is a specialist in infrastructure planning and financing. Thank you for coming on this morning.
My pleasure.
Well, the governors there used previously, before that report, they used some very strong words to describe the entire process. And in that reaction, the NCP actually did say that, well, they were aware of the process before it started. And so how could they expect the rules to be changed in the middle of the game or at the end of the game? And that, they say, doesn't just add up for them. How do you see this entire scenario?
Honestly, I want to protest first.
Protest?
Yes. I think the governors have other avenue through which they can air their grievances. They have access to the Mr. President, who is the #1 man in the country, and I'm sure they have direct access to the technical committee. So when they start protesting on the pages of newspaper, I get worried. Because the critical question we must ask as a nation and as a people, do we need electricity to improve in this country? Can electricity improve through any other means than the privatization? Are we all not aware that this thing was going on since it started? even if you have complaint, you are part of government, you have access to Mr. President, I think they could have explored all those avenues rather than just coming to the radio. I feel very embarrassed when I was seeing them do what they were doing. Because I know if they are asked Mr. President for within 24 hours, I want to see Mr. President. Mr. President is in this country. At least the president we have now is the one that will have said, okay, come on. And so I think they should have taken that. You don't come and watch. This is a national issue. Don't turn it to politics. Because the way they're going, it's looking like, oh, no, because if this government gets its right with electricity, they will have an attempt to campaign next election and things like that. And all this you know the way politicians operate.
Just for a minute,
Yes,
sir.
please.
Some
Yes,
people would have said that, that will be backdoor protesting because the bids itself was conducted in full glare of the public.
Yes.
It was done in the open. In fact, live cameras were there broadcasting
that's right.
the process. So is it not only fair that if you're not satisfied with what you've seen, it's only fair that you say in public too that you're not satisfied?
They said it in public, but what's the evidence? You see, it's been said like any layman would have said what he's saying. Let them show evidence. You don't keep on alleging. You see, the whole thing that they are not complaining about is a fundamental issue about what is called due process. You see, there is difference between due process and fair process. I think this is where
So what, due process may not necessarily
be fair. That's the truth. And you see, the thing says, do this, do this, do this. Even when you finish open the bill, some people take your bid somewhere to go analyze it.
But due process is meant to be fair.
That's the intention.
Should be fair.
That's the intention.
That is the intention. But a lot of times, and I can say that 100 times because I work for federal government a lot, that, okay, when the thing says advertise, let them see certain criteria, open the presence of all of them, write all the things down. But they carry your bid one way or for some people to go analyze. You are not there. And as much as you are not there, you don't know what went behind the scene. And therefore, you can't vouch for anything.
So are you implying that
the governors might have a basis to complain? I think this is what the problem the governors are having. You see, everybody talks about due process. I smile.
Why?
Because it just says to go through a process. It didn't say it's a fair process.
So the governors might have a basis to complain.
That's right. I'm not saying they don't have anybody could. When you fail an exam, you think it's the examiner that is wrong, not you. So, they might. But let them show us the evidence. If they have insiders, when the thing was being evaluated, and those insiders are giving them certain information, let them tell us in the public.
Look, one of the governors, or actually all of them were quoted as saying that the preferred bidder did not have the technical capability or competence to handle the project.
That is what they are saying.
That's what they're saying.
Yeah. You see, you can give any excuse under the sun if you fail an exam. Any excuse. Show us the evidence. You see, you discover a lot of... the way the whole thing is being handled, I think our press didn't help us too much. Because they were mentioning names of Nigerians, forgetting that these Nigerians went to find technically capable people outside this country to partner with. So you don't have to be technically capable on the subject matter. But you find somebody, it's also like an employer. I mean, I'm a town planner first and foremost. But if I take a job that involves engineering, if I'm going to plan a whole city, I need the engineers who will design the roads, the planners who will design the water.